What's up, everyone? I'm just going to give y'all a moment to join. We'll see if we get anybody in here. Y'all can tell me if my sound is good or not, right? I'm just going to cut my phone down because y'all already know sometimes it'll go off. And yeah, it's kind of annoying, to be honest. All right. So I think we are good and we are going. And we recently started parts work, which is really one of my favorite modalities that I use as a therapeutic approach. Um, so when we started, we just laid the foundation right. We came in, and what we were saying was, "Hey, welcome back, Mr. Shelton. Blessings to you, family. So happy to see you." And so when we first came in, like I said, we were laying the foundation, right? That was like our biggest thing was what is parts work, right? And I just briefly described that we're talking about not literal parts, but just different aspects of self, right? Because we all have been through experiences, whether it be positive experiences or not so pleasurable experiences that begin to shape all of these various parts of self, and in different ways they're going to begin to show up in our lives even when we may not be consciously aware, right? So we were just talking about how going forward we're going to learn to identify these parts. And so today I titled it, who's showing up for lunch, which part of you is showing up for dinner, which part of you is showing up for a date or an outing with family. So it's just a different approach, right? And I'm hoping that we can just briefly go through this and y'all can really learn something from this and just be more self aware, right? So, that foundation, the parts that we explored, right, was it could be a part of you that is like the inner child, it could be another part of you that is the exile, right? Then we have that other part that could be the managing part of ourselves. Then we further went on and we talked about the firefighter part, right? And the goal is to get to the core self, being the one that manages us. That means who the shell, the current self, the present self, that's who we really want to manage ourselves. Because if these other parts are possibly managing us, it's because they may be experiencing some level of interpersonal conflicts amongst each other. You ever had moments where you find yourself being indecisive, where a part of you feels this way? What's up? What's up to the stepping razor? So happy to see you. I'm always concerned about pronouncing your name because I kind of can get annoyed when somebody doesn't ask how to pronounce my name. Is it camera or yeah? Help me out, brother. But so nice to see you. All right. So, like I said, the biggest goal in parts work is for our core self to be the one that's managing. That's the biggest goal because then we're going to have that sense of balance, right? All right. So, do y'all need, I don't know if both of you were able to review the previous parts work video. Do y'all need me to just briefly go through those parts I just listed? Or are we ready to start working? I don't mind. Kamar, Kamare. Is it long A like Kamara or Kamare? Help me out. Kamare. Kamare. I think I got it. Kamare. Kamare. Okay. I think. All right. Thank you so much for being understanding. Oh, okay. No, I did not get that right. Kamara. Kamara. I got it now. I won't forget it. Kamara. Okay. And excuse me, I'm from the South, so maybe my accent might not pronounce it just right. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Shelton, for just letting me know. Okay. So when we say these different parts, right? The goal, like I said, is always to be in our core self. That's the goal. But these other parts, the first one I mentioned was, and like I said, this is on the previous video in case you just want to maybe go back and dive into it. What's up, BVO? What's up, bro? Nice to have you here. All right, so that first part that I talked about is going to be the inner child. That inner child is the one. What's up, Kano? Blessings to you. That inner child is the one. We're just going briefly through a recap of what we did last week, Kano, before we start this new portion. So that inner child, what we're saying is that's the part of yourself that has suppressed everything for so long. It's the part of you that constantly pushes down what you're feeling. Okay. It's the part of you that, may come out in ways that you're like, why am I responding this way? Right? So we have the inner child. And so I'm going to show you how the inner child and exile can intertwine. Y'all are going to see this in a second. So let's say the inner child experiences something, obviously, as a child, and it was not resolved. So then we grow up to be adults. And when anything looks like, feels like, smells like, we respond or feel the same way we felt when we were children. Okay? And y'all are going to now see how it coincides with that second part. That second part is the exile, right? That exile part. Now, that part is just totally focused on that part of you that exiles all your feelings, that judges them. It's like, no, you shouldn't be feeling that way, or no, that's not cool. You need to get over that, or you're being weak. You need to show more strength, right? Because remember, all of these parts have been shaped, whether it be culturally conditioned, whether it be by social media, whether it be by belief systems, religious belief systems, okay? But I'm sure you also, what's up? Oh, thank you so much, Kamara. I got it now. I'm gonna keep practicing. So the way that exile and inner child can go hand in hand is because think about it. If it was not resolved when you were growing up in how to process anything that you went through, if it was not resolved in a way to process trauma or not so pleasurable experiences, right? Then would you not be more reluctant to maybe voice how you feel? You might even have a fear of being like vulnerable, like seriously, and especially as a people, we can be very private, right? What's up, D-Man? So nice to see you. All right, let's move forward because we got some work to do, y'all. We're going to work today, but just always know I'm right here with you. I'm always willing to answer as many questions as I can. If I don't have the answer, I definitely don't mind looking it up and we'll circle back around to it, right? All right, so that third part, we already said the inner child. We then said the exile, right? That third is the manager. Brief description about that manager. That part, when anything looks like, feels like something that could bring up these emotions that we have exiled, if you will, that manager is going to be like, oh no, and that manager is all about protecting yourself mentally, emotionally, right? What's up, DP Rocka? So happy to see you, family. Oh, y'all are just making my heart smile right now. I appreciate y'all so much. So we have that manager part. Say, for instance, I think I utilized this example last video. Say, for instance, it's a situation where you may feel not as confident in. That manager part remembers a moment where you felt that way, and they're like, nah, I got you. And then all of a sudden, you begin to have this facade that you begin to paint of self. And so before you know it, that part of you presents as a perfectionist. That part of you presents as someone that has it all together and has been able to check, every box, dot every I, cross every T, because that manager part doesn't want you to feel what you once felt as maybe that inner child or that trigger of that exile part. Now, let's say that manager part, it just doesn't help. And you get overwhelmed with these emotions that you've once experienced. When that happens, that's when that firefighter will step in. That firefighter is like, okay, manager part, you're not doing your job. Let me show you how it's really done. The firefighter part can be the dangerous part of us. That's the part that steps up and acts impulsively, right? That's when you hear about individuals who may utilize substance use to cope because it's just too much. It's too overwhelming to face these feelings and all of this stuff, right? That is so foreign. Another impulsive thing one can see with that firefighter part is you may see a lot of fighting, not always to protect self. It's just, it may come out when they may feel like they are being backed up in a corner or backed up against the wall, right? And so they may respond on a level 1,000 for a situation that may be only called for a level 2 because it triggered something that they had exiled within them for so long. But like I said, those 4 parts are all to get to what's up, Eric Jordan? So happy to see you, fam. All of these parts are to be able to identify. We want to identify them so that way we can go to the core self. That is the major part. That's what's up. I'm glad to hear that. I hope it's really helpful and beneficial and making sense, y'all. All right, so that was just a recap of last week to get us caught up to where we're going today. I won't be on long. Y'all know I really don't like staying on here too long. All right, so what I said was, who is showing up for lunch? Who is showing up for that date? Who is showing up for that coffee outing? Who is showing up if you go to a lounge? Thank you, Kana. I appreciate you. And that's what we want to know. Is it really your core self? Is it the one? D-Man Jr., okay, you're funny and you know me by now. Anybody that's been knows that I'll just eventually sometimes get to a space where I'm like, nope, I'm done. Next time. All right. So your core self, that's where we want to be. We want to be able to truly be balanced and self-aware that we can walk in our present self. Well, it's easier to do that if we know who may be managing us, right? Okay. So let's start. Let's start, y'all. You always know when your parts of self have an internal conflict. Anybody want to maybe guess how you know? One way, it's no wrong answer. We're all in this thing together. How would you know that your internal parts of self are having an internal conflict? I'll start off. They almost can become stubborn, rebellious at times. when there's an internal conflict, okay, it can show up in almost like, what if we say internalized aggression? Yeah, yeah. If you are that self-aware, I'm hearing you. Yeah, but it can also show up when there's internalized aggression. What would that look like if we say internalized aggression? And how do we get to that place of this internalized aggression, right? Remember, we talked about that major part of self, the inner child. We can get to this internalized aggression, one reason, if we were not given the space growing up to express our feelings and emotions. It may not have been normalized. Yeah, yeah, you got it. Definitely. Yeah. And so if we don't ever learn how the good brother just typed in there, to be able to express our feelings, emotions, and thoughts in a healthy manner, then we don't feel safe to do so. Definitely not as adults, y'all. And so we turn it inward. There comes the internal aggression, lashing out at self. Remember, I said how you can almost be like, stop it. Stop acting like this. Stop feeling this way. What the hell is wrong with you? Get over it. Not validating anything that you feel, because maybe you have been shaped and conditioned to only validate the feelings of others and not self. All right, y'all, we on to it. Another way we can tell that there are some interpersonal conflicts amongst our parts of self would be shame, y'all. Shame. I'm sure a lot of you remember those the series where we talked about cognitive distortions, right? Shame is a distortion. Your thoughts and views of self are distorted, right? Some of the thoughts may include that you're not worthy or deserving of love or acceptance or a second chance. What if it's a third or fourth or fifth chance, right? So then we had this distorted idea of self that you're not even worthy of that. Or you shouldn't feel this because that's what you're supposed to do. That's the role you play. And so you shouldn't even feel this. Y'all still with me? Um, what if we take it a step further in ways that we know when there is an internal conflict with these parts? What if we say regression, right? Regression. A lot of people I work with can experience this at times, and you might have experienced it, where even though you are in your adult body, or you might know someone, right? You're in your adult body, but your actions are almost regressed to a time where you were a child. Your actions may come out in a tantrum. What's up, Daryl? So happy to see you. So happy to see you, family. Oh, I don't know if y'all can feel the love through the screen, but my heart is definitely smiling. Yeah, yeah, Kamara. I mean, really, these things are real, y'all. Like, so what happens, right? Like I was saying, is that we may be in our physical current body, But a situation, remember we talked about those exiles, those triggers. It may be an interaction with someone, a family member, that before you know it, you slip back and regress to a much younger child, to those times. Or, like I said, it can come out in almost a full blown tantrum. And for if you are an individual that does have that happen at moments, maybe ask yourself, how old is that part of myself? Is it more like that 12 or 13-year-old? I mean, I wouldn't personally, I wouldn't know. I'm just throwing out numbers. Or was something that happened even much younger? Oh, I appreciate you, Daryl. And I also pray that you have a great day at work. You already know. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. What's up, TD? So happy to see you. I appreciate you stopping by. I know what you meant. I know what you meant. It's all good. Yeah, but it's really important to notice and be self-aware. And I hope that's what y'all are learning right now, is that self-awareness allows you to recognize these conflicts. But I still got a few more, y'all. We getting through this thing. Perfectionism. It's amazing how this part of self can show itself. It's not always the way people assume it is, right? Or how it begins to brew in an individual, right? So, say for instance, you have a task, right? And all of us, of course, want to feel competent. We want to feel capable. We want to feel strength and strong, right? But when the pressure can become so great on us, sometimes that part, that perfectionist part will kick in. The thing about that perfectionist part is it is so rigid and it gives you no flexibility. So the first moment you don't dot that I and cross that T, you just feel defeated. Anybody ever dealt with that? I know I have personally. Hmm. Yeah. And so how I worked through that part of myself was to over time accept that imperfect and normalize imperfection. View it as a learning experience. Yeah, because it's so easy that, for us to, and nothing's wrong with wanting to feel strong and feel capable or competent. No, it's when it gets to the point of perfectionism, and that can be a whole nother barrier to our overall stability and balance, right? So just a different way to look at it. The inner critic. Oh my gosh. Anybody ever had that inner voice that constantly questions you, that constantly lingers there with the doubt? It might hold these fears and, all of these things. Think about, yeah, D man, that inner voice is something else. And yep, that's a part of y'all self. We're getting there, y'all. I know this is not a therapeutic approach that a lot of people are aware of, but that's my goal, is to give us so many different tools to better navigate through life, right? So that inner critic will get to a place where they are just going to criticize everything you do. And it's you, it's yourself. I get that inner voice when it's time to do errands. We're going to get to procrastination in a second. Sitting over there laughing out loud. Oh, Daryl, unless you really meant that, when it's time for you to do errands, that inner critic may say, you cannot do all of this, or you're not going to be able to do this. Right? So it begins to criticize self, you know. When that happens, I say to myself, not true. That inner voice will have you drifting. Yes. Yeah. And so you don't need to answer this, but then I would question, where did this inner voice first make itself known? Because it's not like it just poof and is there. There is somewhere in our life that, whether it be the inner voice, not the inner voice, the outer voice being of somebody that we may have respected, parent, guardian, um, someone in, like, an authoritative position, right? Because, like I said, it doesn't just poof come up. Daryl says, procrastination is the word. Cam is a genius. Oh, you're so kind. You always just are so encouraging, Daryl. I appreciate you. But yeah. When has it proved beneficial? Because think about the times when you look back and that inner critic stopped you from doing something that now you look back and it's like, I was more than capable. I could have done it. I could have done it. Right? So it's just one of those things to also think about. What is it holding you back from? Just a different way to look at it, right? The harshness of that inner critic lies there, right, in us. And it undermines even our own positive moments, our positive attributes of self. That's what it'll do. But we can be so easy to extend that to others. All right, y'all. Y'all are doing amazing work. Just want to remind you. The next one, another way we can know that we have some internal conflicts with these parts: procrastination. See, I wasn't being funny, Daryl. It was actually, yeah, procrastination is one of them. We may postpone tasks or even avoid these tasks. Anybody in here ever struggle? We already know Daryl said that, yeah, it can be procrastination for him. Anyone else ever struggle with the procrastination? Or even being indecisive? You know, not being able to make decisions, right? Not being able to just take action and move forward, right? Just a different way to look at it. I hope these questions that I'm posing before you all right now are going to sit there with you, and you can sit with it and approach these parts in a more kinder way. Because I hope that you're realizing, man, okay, it's coming from somewhere. It doesn't have to always be traumatic. No, it could just be an experience that wasn't as pleasurable. And that's why that part came upon us. I've been struggling with changing out my toilets. Finally got it done. Wow. Why do you think you were struggling with that? If you want to share, just ask him. And congratulations for being able to follow through and get it done, D Man Jr. Daryl says, I feel it gets worse as I get older. Okay. I wonder how much of that is now a cognitive distortion. Because always remember, whatever narrative we write for self, a lot of times we don't have any facts, y'all. But if we repeat this narrative, like that inner voice we spoke about, long enough, it becomes your truth. You believe it. The beauty in all of this is that we're going to learn to continue to engage with these parts in a healthy way and become more balanced. That part, not looking at it and being so judgmental of it. What's up, Snoopy Matt? And that's where we can promote the change, if you choose so, right? D Man said, I wasn't sure if I could do it. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Do y'all see how a lot of these internal conflicts with these various parts of self can begin to overlap? Yeah. The last one, y'all, is feeling stuck. Just feeling stuck, which I'm sure you can see how that interacts with the procrastination. You know, not wanting to take action and move forward, right? You may have other parts of self that are advocating for another conflictual option. So listen to what I said. When we have these stagnated parts, feeling stuck, indecisive, which obviously would go even beyond just procrastination because we're not moving anywhere. At least the procrastination, you just are avoiding. You're still moving, but you're avoiding. That stuck is, I'm just not doing anything, right? And that's because there are various parts within that are giving you conflicting options. Well, what if this happens? We talked about the what ifs and distorted thinking before. Well, what if that happens? Well, what if I can't? Well, what if it doesn't work out the way I want? Right? And a lot of these parts, you're going to discover that it can also be an underlying fear that we may have, right? Not a fear of like, not that type of fear, like that, scary fear. But what if it's the fear of not being able to accomplish that which you set out to? And the fear is so great that you just don't do anything. And so then you become, yeah, you got it, Daryl. You got it. But how will we know success if we don't learn to accept those moments where it may not work out, right? How can we celebrate the success, feel deserving of that moment if we can't give ourselves the freedom to also experience moments where we may not, accomplish what we set out to accomplish? What if we rewrote that narrative and just said it's a part of life? What do I always tell y'all? We are all doing life for the very first time. And if BVO is still in here, I had told him I was going to look it up. He asked me, where'd you get that saying from? And I was like, surely I didn't come up with that. I've been saying it for so many years. And I did go look. I did find like ideas and various, ideologies of that which I say, but I couldn't find it like literally. So who knows? Oh, hi, mommy. Hi, beautiful mommy. D-Man says, facts, can't celebrate nothing if you never get it done. That part. Or then if you have that interpersonal conflict with these parts, remember we talked about the one who kind of undermines, that doesn't want to give self the praise, may not feel as though you're deserving of such because you may be holding on to that shame in one part, so it won't allow you to feel the celebration of self. Daryl says, I think the fear of success comes more from the fear of increased responsibilities and attention. It may. And then I ask, but where does that come from? At what part or point in your life? Because it's easy to say, oh, I don't want the responsibilities. Then my question would be, but everything I know about you, you are more than capable and competent. Is it possibly not so much of not wanting the responsibilities as I may not be able to handle it? Because maybe it was a time where we did take on a lot of responsibilities or stretched ourselves out too thin and we weren't able to meet that mark, if you will. Yeah, that can also be Snoopy Matt, just scared to fail. So then my question is, if we utilize that verbiage of failure, what happened when you failed before? What happened? Just something to think about. Typically, when someone has that fear of failure, it's because it was a time where they felt as though they failed. And the response that they may have received was so overwhelming. You got it, Daryl. You got it. Mm-hmm. It's that easy in that sense. And I'm glad that this is making sense to all of you and you're finding it meaningful in your own ways. And that's what I really want, is for you to be able to personalize these different videos and content for self, because then that's when you can really start to work. We're going to have possibly a part 3 and part 4 of this as well, right? So this is the second part of parts work. I'm really hopeful that you gained different perspectives, different way to just face these parts of self and face them in a different, way, to not be as judgmental of them, right? I'm going to explain about those 8 C's once we actually together identify these parts, begin to name them. And so we're going to be doing that. Like I said, I'll do like this video where I won't wait so long in between. So that way everything's kind of fresh in our minds. Anything before we go, anything that resonated that you feel comfortable with sharing. You don't have to, y'all already know. All right. Well, y'all already know. I'm gonna look for any reason to jump off. I appreciate each of you for spending this time with me. More importantly, just engaging, being vulnerable in this safe space. And I always want you to know that it is a safe space. I look forward to our next conversation. I'm possibly going to change, like my name on the screen. Y'all know who I am. Y'all know what my avatar look like. So I was thinking about something and I'll see. I don't know. You said a lot of what you said, I get. Awesome. The fear of success can also come from people gaslighting you. Yeah, yeah, I love it. For anybody that's tuning in a little later, maybe go back and check out, the rest of this video whenever you have time, y'all. I'm praying that you each have a beautiful day. What's up, NBA D Nice? So happy to see you. So nice to have you here. Change it. We're gonna be here, and you'll still be you, right? Of course. Yes, D Man Jr. It's still gonna be me. It was just I was like, I don't know if I want my whole name. Of course I had that for many years ago, and it had to be that way because of schooling um, and stuff that I was doing then. Daryl, I realized I have some self doubt issues. Got some work to do. I'm hearing you. Mystic Beauty. That's different. That is different. I'm gonna think about that because then I also I love the space that we have, and I don't all of a sudden want like trolls coming here with other expectations. I don't know. It's just the way my mind works, right? But then I also have to trust that I have y'all in here. And if anybody comes in here on some no, Daryl, that used to be my nickname in high school. We are not going there. Um, but I have to trust y'all. And so I know that y'all would like give them the boot with the quickness. So I don't know yet. I'll think about it. I cannot with you, Daryl. That's what Junior the Truth always says. Killer. D Man Junior, hey, we're gonna slap corn off them. I know. I know you would. And I have to keep that in mind. Oh, yeah. So I do want to go back to what Daryl shared and all of you. I truly appreciate your level of vulnerability. It's not easy being adults and realizing those parts of ourselves, right? And it's also not easy being a Black man, right? Or a minority male, realizing, wow, you know, this is something that's within me. But oh, the beauty of being able to see it and face it. That takes so much more strength than y'all may even imagine. And so you can have outer space on the screen like the stars showing on the screen while you talk. I love it. I'm going to think about it. I promise you. I really will. All right, y'all. Just know that I'm proud of each of you in whichever part of your life you're in, whichever path you are on. I'm telling you that I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Take a look back, reflect on who you've been previously, and celebrate where you are. Because it's not about, some people say, oh, well, that's a small celebration or a big celebration. No, don't do it in this hierarchy. No, just celebrate. Yes, I received that. Thank you. I'll see y'all soon in these YouTube streets. Talk to you soon, y'all. Blessings.